We'll be conducting our agenda session as normal after our budget presentation and a few questions. Councilor Fozzie and Councilor Westerland did inform me that they could not be here tonight. And Mayor Larson, I will hand it off to you. Mayor Larson.
Thank you, President Filipovich, and thank you, councilors. We are ready to present my very first, proposed general fund budget for 2017, and the process has taken many months, a lot of work on the part of staff, and so before I begin, I do just really want to thank and acknowledge Mr. Montgomery, Gunnar Johnson, and of course Wayne Parson and Jen Carlson, who have been unbelievable to work with, along with the rest of our staff who has participated and provided their guidance, their concerns, their issues, their needs. And I'm just going to talk us through the budget. So the plan for tonight is, I've got a few comments I really want to share with you to kind of set the stage. And then we have about 10 slides I'm going to talk through. We have a budget binder already. Do you have a budget binder already? Okay, got it. And then Wayne will give you the budget binder we'll talk through. So with that, my first budget as mayor starts with a spoiler alert. It isn't glamorous. This budget isn't full of new programs or brimming with exciting initiatives. It's Minnesota plaid and practical, solid, problem-solving, and forward-looking. It's a modest budget that holds the line on new spending and fixes Duluth's precarious reliance on fees to pay for our streets. This budget is transparent, it's fair, and lays a solid floor upon which we can build. I think of this budget as a signal to our community that we are committed to the priority of investing in our streets through long-term and reliable investment. The biggest and most visible change you'll see in my budget is how we will pay for streets going forward. For years, I have been hearing that 1, people want our streets fixed, and 2, they want a reliable way to pay for it. We have over 400 miles of streets. Over the past 2 summer construction cycles, state and federal monies have paid to fix and maintain about 4 miles of them, or 1%. The city currently pays for the rest through a flat fee assessment, which shows up on your utility bill about $60 per year for the average homeowner. We are asking for a revenue-neutral swap. Eliminate the fee assessment and raise the same amount of money through the levy. And there are several reasons why this switch makes really good sense. Recently, the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled on St. Paul's use of right-of-way fees to pay for its streets and other broad city services like snow plowing. The court was clear and unambiguous in its skepticism. The court wrote that the fee acted in reality as a tax, subject to restrictions on the city's taxing power. Our street fee has differences from St. Paul, but this ruling puts Duluth's street funding at risk. And if we are sued, I believe we are exposing Duluth taxpayers to potential liability, and I will not do that. Regardless of that ruling, however, there are 3 other reasons we need to address this issue. Paying for our streets through fees is literally not dependable as an organization. Every year, this street fee must go before the city council for approval. If the fee is not proactively approved each and every year, it disappears, along with our entire street program and the work and the preparation of our staff in planning the year ahead. So creating a long-range improvement plan we need to create a long-range improvement plan that relies on predictable and dependable funding. Another reason why this makes good sense is that fees are generally less equitable since they assess a flat fee, regardless of income or value of property. And last, the fees can run the risk of being less transparent. Each year, there are public hearings for scrutiny and input on levying our property taxes as a community. Conversely, fees can be approved on a single vote by the council at one meeting. Moving forward, the revenue-neutral swap from fee to levy means our budget and street funding are stable and predictable. At the next council meeting, in addition to the resolution for the budget I am proposing, there will be a resolution to direct this revenue-neutral swap into a dedicated streets fund, meaning that these dollars will not be allowed to be used for anything other than their intended purpose, streets. What this shift from fee to tax means for Duluth taxpayers is greater transparency and equity. Our aim is to be revenue neutral. The increase in the levy will be directly offset by the elimination of the existing fee. And the financial impact will be minimal. Property taxes will increase, offset by the elimination of the fee. The net result, and I'll show you in a few minutes, that most Duluth homeowners will actually see no financial difference, and some will experience a modest net decrease in what they pay overall in fees and taxes. For example, the median Duluth homeowner living in the average $160,000 home can expect to save $18 per year. As a homeowner of a $225,000 home, you can expect to pay $3 more annually. So to state clearly, this revenue neutral shift does not add more into our city street dollars. In and of itself, it does not solve our streets issue. Instead, it clearly lays plain that we will prioritize it within our annual budgeting process and build a long-term path for greater investment. So how we pay for streets, the swap from fees to property taxes, that will be the biggest change that you will see in the 2017 Duluth general budget. The rest of the budget is hold even, and I'll tell you about that now. The needs within our 2017 budget grow modestly compared to 2016, in large part due to increased insurance costs and normal wage increases. This increase in cost, the difference between 2016 and 2017, is paid in three ways. First, Duluth's growing economy that brings in additional money, roughly 4% more this year over last. Cutting general costs for our organization, and which includes not hiring some currently vacant city positions, including one within my own office. This hiring delay will be lifted for all other positions during 2017 except for my own. I'm holding open the position for the entire year. And lastly, increasing Minnesota Power's franchise fee to be more in line with state averages. Excluding the swap, Duluth's general operating budget portion of the tax levy that we will present to you, it increases less than 1%. If you add in the debt levy, which we have no choice about, we are still under 2%. Our budget needs to represent our values, and I believe this one does. It continues our long tradition of excellent, timely, comprehensive public service while being disciplined in our spending and conservative in our projections. It actually would have been easier just to kind of punt this issue and wait for appeals of the Minnesota Supreme Court to run their course and not try to explain a higher tax levy to the community. But it really would not have been prudent. It wouldn't have been responsible to the needs of our people and our community. Without question, cities are taking the hit for political gridlock on the state and federal level. This year, for instance, Duluth stood to gain from the transportation, tax, and bonding bills from the Minnesota legislature, and none of them came to fruition for us. As a community, we simply can't wait any longer for others to come to our rescue because it feels like we will be waiting a very long time. And this is one of the reasons why the very first allocation I made this year as mayor was to increase funding this year, an allocation you joined me in support of $800,000 to improve our streets. As Duluthians, we don't wait for others to act. We get things done for ourselves. It's time to take action and start rebuilding a foundation for stable and reliable streets funding. So the budget I'm asking for approval on is not flashy, but to me, it's important. It's foundational, it's forward-looking, and it is a financial reset. It allows us to continue to provide the essential services people rely on from city government, but it also says that we are ready to dig in and get things done. So with that, I think we'll talk through a few slides and maybe provide the budget book, Wayne, and see if people want to get started. I had 5 budget goals when we started this process. The first was to present the values of our organization as a city, meaning what is it that we are about and what is it that people rely on us for. The second was to provide a balanced, fair, and focused budget that had tangible and measurable impact. I wanted the community to know what they were getting when they looked at this budget, that it was clear, that it was transparent, and that people understood and could measure our progress with us. I wanted this budget to be a reflection back to the community on priorities, not just my priorities, but their priorities. And time and again, people have asked for streets. I wanted this budget to provide some consistency and reliability to our homeowners and our commercial districts and our business owners. And finally, we needed to build a foundational focus. When I looked at projecting 5 years out based on a street fee, it does not work. It does not provide a strong foundation for this community. And if we don't build up, we won't build strong. The challenges we have, and I didn't say a lot about these, we have increased healthcare costs and stepped wage increases that totaled about $3 million extra on top of 2016. The increased healthcare cost was double what we had been told to expect. So that was significant. The Minnesota Supreme Court ruling on the St. Paul right-of-way had a potential financial impact to us of $2.8 million, which is what we collect currently from the street fee. The legislative session and inaction on key areas we rely on. Two more challenges that we had are our managers and directors were very clear in laying out their needs and requests, over $1 million, close to $1 million of requests on their part for staffing, for programming. We are unable to fulfill that, and it is unfortunate because it is very well thought out, the needs of the organization. And finally, the reality that this budget, any budget, based on so many variables, and we can only control a few of those variables. So I want to show you next, Bobby, a pie chart. This kind of reflects back to the pie chart we did with you for Budget 101 earlier this year. So I just kind of wanted to update that. These are our proposed revenues for 2017. And so there's several slices of the pie there, but the only one that we can really control is that property tax. 14.3 million is what we get. It's what we use anyway for our general fund budget after paying for debt. That is the only piece of that pie that we actually can lever up or down. Local government aid is absolutely flat. Sales tax does go up and down, and we've had good years in sales tax. We do budget for an increase, but we can't force that increase and make it happen. And then the other pieces there as well. Bobby? Next slide is our proposed expenses based on the budget that we are presenting to you today. And as you see, there is combined public safety is almost 50% of our budget. As Mr. Montgomery likes to say, we aren't in the business of widgets. We don't make things. We are a people-centered organization. If you include the benefits that we pay and the salaries, our budget is 82% people. And when you are cutting people, you are cutting services. You are cutting the basic services people rely on. And in this image, you will and we will be faced with cutting public safety. What we have done is held off $800,000 worth of hiring for the next year as part of our budget savings. I mentioned a little bit about that in my comments and about how I will be holding open a position the entire year. Other positions will be filled during 2017. These are critical positions that our staff need to grow. But as you can see, this is a lot of where our dollars go. And it looks like we're missing a few things there, so we'll have to fill that in. Next, Bobby. Okay, this slide looks confusing, and I'm okay with that. It should look a little confusing. In the last 10 years, we've had 4 different strategies to pay for streets, and I want to talk you through them, and I want you to see what it is that we're talking about. Back in 2006, 2007, and 2008, we relied on bonds. Those dollars that were spent on street is debt that we are paying today. The budget that I am proposing is paying off early one street bond debt. It is a street bond debt from back in the day here. So these gray bars represent money that was done on or money that was used for streets, but it is debt we are still paying off. It was not cash. The next 3 columns is the transition that was made to using casino revenue and CIT funds. That transition was actually made in 2009 for a couple of reasons. As you can see, it did realize some more funding. The other is that we were so bonded that to continue to bond, we were not getting the kind of dollars that merited the bonding. We had bonded to a maximum, so we needed to switch strategies, and the city did at that time. As you can see, there's a sharp drop after 2011, and that's when that dedicated revenue source went away. And we have slowly kind of tried different strategies since. Those green bars represent the fee, and you can see that the fee goes up and the fee goes down. Now, what these bars represent is what was literally spent on streets, not what was paid back for old debt. We have collected more than this in a fee, but those additions go to that old debt. It is not dollars that people see working on their streets. So in 2017, I proposed that revenue neutral swap that actually brings it back into a reliable budgeting format and ideally serves as the base upon which we can build for future years. Here's what the transition looks like for the budget. And I bolded the columns that we think are really helpful for you. As you can see at the top row, those are homestead, the lower is commercial. In the top, you can see that the residential property value, we've got 4 categories: $100,000 home, $160,000 home, $225,000 home, and $350,000 home. In 2016, if you lived in that average priced home of $160,000, you paid $589 to the city of Duluth in fees and taxes, in the street fee and tax. As we make that swap, again, that revenue neutral swap into the property tax levy from the fee, you will see that in 2017, for that same average price house, you are paying $18 less because we have rolled it into a system that is graded on that property tax system, meaning that it reflects the value of your property and isn't applied in a flat way. You can also see that if you own a home of $225,000, you start paying $3 per year, and it does go up from there, as is reflected in the property tax schedule. When we look at commercial properties, it is the same. Commercial properties are valued with a few more variables that makes it hard to kind of summarize, and we've done the best that we can. Some of it involves whether, if you own a parking lot and some of the values with the assessor's office, but what we find is that it is a very, very similar breakdown. The most popular commercial property we have is valued at $350,000, I think, and so that property value will receive a benefit. They will pay less in this combined approach than they are currently paying now. And this is what our preliminary property tax levy looks like. Again, if you look at the bolded columns, the general operations levy is the first one. That's the general cash we are working with. That goes up 0.78%, less than 1%. We are increasing our budget for general operations through the levy by $169,000. That is it. Those expenses correlate in part with some clerk's office and elections related things we need to do. It does not include a lot of the grounded dreams of our staff who would like to see us do more and would hope that we can do more in the future. If you look down at the next bolded column, that's our capital projects levy. That's the debt that we carry, and we do use the property tax to help pay that down. Add in one more percentage point there. Altogether, all told, if you include both of that, we are under 2% for our levy as the city of Duluth, and that has been very difficult to achieve, but is a very good and strong number. Now, the bottom line is adding in the street maintenance fee, which again, if we go back to the prior slide, which all of this is in your packet, you will see that it is revenue neutral and people save money. It does add up in the percentage point there. So for a total property tax levy for the city of Duluth of 14.92%. Bobby? Even with this addition, we are still the smallest portion of the pie for the property taxes. The city often gets the most visual or, kind of the most vocal response on property taxes when we are really, and that's okay because we are the front line. Often the city is, we are always the smallest portion on the tax bill for property taxes. We will continue to be, even with this revenue neutral switch. School is ahead of us, county's quite a bit farther ahead of us. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Just to let you know the process to date, this has been months long. We got new information all along the way that changed what we were doing and how things were going. But the public process begins now. So we have items that will be added to your packet. In fact, I think we have them in hard copy and we'll get them to you at the end of today's meeting. They will be added electronically in the morning. What you will see from me and from administration are 3 pieces added to the agenda. The maximum levy resolution, which brings forward the budget that I've presented tonight. The franchise fee ordinance with Minnesota Power that Minnesota Power is in support of as well. That will, of course, require 2 reads. And then the street fund ordinance, and that is dedicating this portion of the property tax roll over into streets specifically, and that will require 2 reads. So packaged together, these are items that we can finish up before September 30th, when we're legally required to set the maximum levy, and we can schedule for that vote at the next council meeting, which is September 26th. And then there are budget meetings, lots of them, between now and the end of the year with different departments. So, Mr. Montgomery and Mr. Parson, I do just want to give you an opportunity to say anything that I didn't before we take any questions. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. You all have received a summary budget book here for the general fund. Many of the slides that Emily just went through are reflected in the book, and also then the more detailed information by each department showing the basic line items in each department are there for your review, and those will be items that will be discussed during our budget meetings with the various departments. There's also a handful of other additional schedules in here that just add clarity. One of the ones that's often useful is what we call our bridge schedule, which takes you from 2016 to 2017 and shows you where all the things are moving around. So that's there for your perusal. Obviously, if you have any questions, Wayne Parson, myself, our staff is available for discussion of those anytime between now and when you vote on the max levy, and certainly between then and December when the final levy vote is taken. We're available for all manner of budget questions that may come up.
Dave does really like that bridge schedule. That's true. Mr. Parson, anything from you before we? Great.
The one thing I wanted to mention, I'm not sure if Mayor Larson touched on, is the growth in our property base, but kind of minimizes the impact of this levy increase to the taxpayers. So we have preliminary numbers from the county, and they're talking that we have over 4% growth this year from both new property, new construction, but also just from revaluing of existing property. So I think that's a great thing to mention.